Hey, how's everybody doing today? If you could just do me a favor, please, and in the chat box on either Zoom or if you're watching me on YouTube, if you could just do me a favor in the chat box and let me know that you can hear me and where you're from, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. If you just do that for me right now, that would be great. Just let me know in the old chat box that you can hear me and where you're from. Okay, from Amsterdam. I love it. Okay, fantastic. So looks like we are ready to go. Chicago. Okay, I know it well. My daughter goes to school there, so that is fantastic. So great. She goes to U Chicago, by the way, so it's very good. Anyways, let's get started. If you have any questions for me, you can put them either in the chat box, the Q&A box, wherever you are. Any of those will work. And just let me know the questions. Hang on one more second. I just want to adjust something here on this end so that I can see everything I need to see. Okay, fantastic. Just let me know your questions and we'll get going. I have some questions already, just so everybody knows. But if you have questions for me, just put them in the old chat box or the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So anyways, here is the first question that we have. And this is from Ulrich, who I'm imagining is not in the United States, but asks this. How can you register a company in the US if you're not in the US? Okay, I'm going to defer all these types of questions about registering companies, all the legal questions. And what I'm going to tell you is the smartest thing that you can do is get a lawyer to help you do this right so that the company is registered properly, done properly. I don't think it matters where you are. You can register companies if you're in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East, doesn't matter, or South America, doesn't matter. You can register them in the United States. It's fine. It's fairly straightforward to do, but have a lawyer, even if you're in the United States, by the way, same advice. Have a lawyer help you, so that you get this done right. Okay, next question on our list here. Sorry, I can't read the writing here. How can you have how can you have the same opportunity if you're located outside the United States as in the United States? If you're trying to, I guess, do business in the United States, the answer is, you can't, right? It's going to be different. And what I would advise all of you to do, wherever you're located in the world, is take advantage of what you have wherever you are. That's what I would do. Take advantage of whatever you have wherever you are. So rather than trying to be successful, like for example, if you're located in Europe, or let's say Germany or Amsterdam, if you're in the Netherlands, try and do business in the Netherlands first, and then Europe, and then the United States. Because it's just going to be infinitely more difficult to be successful here in the United States. Be the same for me. If I'm located here, I'm going to try and do business here in the US instead of trying to dominate Europe. Just harder. So make life easier for yourself. There are enough challenges in building a company. So make life easy. That's my advice. Okay, the next question. What do I think the best options are for finding a US founder if I'm located out of the United States? You kind of see the bent here. Okay, I think you're making things again much more difficult. You're much, much better off finding people who are very close to you geographically. It's so difficult to build a team, to build a culture, to build a company. If the people are located outside of where you are, if you're in the same building as somebody, the same house as somebody, it makes it infinitely more easy to raise money to do business, to grow your company. The communication is better, the camaraderie is going to be better, the culture is going to be better. So having somebody halfway across the world, unless it's your best friend or something like that, it's going to be really hard, to make this thing go. So I would strongly not recommend doing this. I would recommend finding people where you are. That's going to be the best thing that you can do. Okay, and then next question on the list here. How do you find a co-founder for the business side of things? Okay, that's a really interesting thing. So I'm going to take it, the person who asked this question is more on the technical side. And I'm going to give you a contrarian. I'm going to give you two answers here, actually. The first answer is if you don't feel comfortable on the business side, then I want to explain the ramifications of what's going to happen. If you're going to find a business founder, that person is likely going to be CEO of the company. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that you're not going to be CEO of the company, that somebody else is going to lead the company. It's going to be their vision, not yours. So if you're okay with that, and that's what you want, then great, then go find yourself a CEO. However, I don't think you're going to find somebody very good. I think you're infinitely better off, even if you're technical and you've never run a business before and you don't know the business side of things. I think you're infinitely better off becoming the CEO. You'll grow into the job. So I would strongly recommend that you become the CEO rather than the other way around. That's what I would do personally. Okay. All right. Then we have this question. Excuse me for a second. Somebody asked if this is live. Yes, it is live. I'm just going through a bunch of questions that I got before. This is, by the way, just so people can understand, especially the YouTube audience, I will prioritize people that are in the Zero to Pitch group first. Then I will answer YouTube questions second. So I'm going through a bunch of questions that were already from people in the Zero to Pitch group. If you want to join the Zero to Pitch group, there's a link on my YouTube site for that. You can click on it, join. It's free. It's a great opportunity. The group is growing by leaps and bounds, and it's very, very active, and you get lots of questions answered. And you get your questions answered or prioritized, I should say, as well. So I'm answering those questions first, and you can see we have a reasonable number of them today. Next question, should I connect with investors before I'm ready to raise funding? Okay, this is a great question that gets asked all the time. And let me put you in investors' shoes. Investors are extremely busy. Extremely busy. So they want to make use of their time because the way that they view things, partner time is the most important time. And what's partner time? It's their time. So they want to make the best use of their time possible. So what are they going to work on? Are they going to work on some future deal, and meet you just because? No, they don't want to do that. They want to work on things which are going to produce results. So don't waste investors' times. They're not going to want to meet with you anyway. So you're much better off when you're ready to go, then reach out, not before then. That's what I would do. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so next question. These are still from the audience that's watching me on Zoom. They get their questions prioritized just so everybody on the YouTube side of things can understand. I'll get to your questions. Plenty of time for everybody. Okay, this one's really broad. What are the biggest challenges when raising funds for a startup? It's so broad, it's almost impossible to answer. But typically what I'll tell you from experience, and I've written a lot about this, there are videos that I have on this on my YouTube site as well. But typically, what I see consistently is people try and raise money before they're ready. And what you have to understand is that for every 100 face-to-face meetings that an investor will take, They will invest in one company, just one. So the odds are really, really against you being successful. So the biggest thing is be prepared, be ready, have traction in today's world. Traction means revenue. I have a video on this, on the various things that you'll need to make that happen. But it's going to be hard, to raise money. I don't want to make light of this for anybody here. It's very, very difficult to raise money. It's a challenge. So I know it's a broad answer to your question, but that's kind of the broad answer. Okay, next question. Daniel, I believe that's your name, asks, how about raising capital from the US when you're in the EU? Because I've noticed EU investors are more risk averse. That's absolutely true. They are more risk averse. Having said that, it's still going to be easier for you to raise money in Europe than it is the United States. It's tough, especially if you're an early stage company, because typically early stage investors want to have close proximity to the companies that they're investing in. So it's going to be a challenge. So I would advise you, as best you can, try and find money where you are. I know European investors are more risk averse than US investors, but still, I would try and find investors where you are. The European companies that I've worked with and still work with have all been able to find money in Europe for what it's worth. Okay, then the next question that Thomas asks is, where's the best place to find angel investors? Okay, the general rule for finding investors is the closer they are in your network, the more likely that you are going to be to find them. So what I would do, again, proximity matters. And what I would do is I would start working with the network that you have, the people that you know. And I would ask every single person that I know, do you know anybody that can help me? And can you help me? And if they say, no, I can't help you, and you ask them, do you know anybody? And eventually what you'll find is you'll find people that know you. If you have a really exciting idea and you are ready to raise money, and that's the key again, that you have the ability to raise money beyond your friends, family, and co-founders, which is usually how almost every single startup gets started. At the beginning, we take that initial money and get to a point where we have revenue or a business. And maybe we're at the stage where we can start attracting angel investors. You'll be able to find them. It's just a game of networking for the most part. The other great tool that's out there is Crunchbase. There are other tools like it, but I love Crunchbase. I think it's the most effective, the one that has the most potential investors listed in it. They have a free trial that you can use. It also costs around $99 a month, I believe. Beyond that, but they have a really comprehensive list, and you can get to people even if you don't know them. You can write an effective, what's called cold email, and get people interested. I have a video coming out on this, I believe next Thursday, a week from Thursday, I'll have a video coming out on this subject as well. Okay, then David asks, I have a self-funded tech and IP content platform. The business requires only working capital, no CapEx, no LT, no long-term liabilities, with a huge addressable market. Thoughts on fulfillment partners as partners? Not exactly sure what you mean there. Are you looking for as investment partners? Or are you just looking at them as partners? In other words, people that you want to do partnerships with, regardless of what it is. What I would say is this: you have to sell them. You have to pitch them on your idea and your business, because this is what you learn, is that as CEOs, especially of early stage startups, we're always pitching somebody something. We're always selling people on our idea and what we're doing. So this is why you want to have a great pitch deck, is because you're always going to need it, because you're always pitching somebody. All right, let's go to, okay, so Dylan asks, this is on the YouTube side of things, have you created any startups? Yes, I have. Okay, next question, Mike asks, how much of a startup do I own if the startup has 20% ESOP and I have a 55-45 split with a co-founder? So what you're saying is you started off with, you had 55%, Your co-founder had 45% of 100%. And now you're giving up 20%. And you've built a stock plan for your employees of 20%, which means it's the employees will have a carve out of 20%. And then you're going to have 80% of 55%. Whatever that math is what your number is going to be. And your co-founder is going to have 45% times 80%. And that's how that's going to work out. And the two of you combined will own 80% of the company. That's the answer. Everybody gets diluted with these things. So you're going to get diluted by 20%. Your co-founder is going to get diluted by 20%. And you've carved out 20% for the employees of the company, which is a smart thing to do. One final point on this, again, I would use a lawyer, please. Be smart. Get a lawyer. Okay, Militia, I believe that's the name, asks, I need to establish credit with D&B, but I'm a home-based business. What are my options for a business address? Okay, that's a great question. Not sure where you're located in the world, but I'm imagining here in the United States. Well, you can form an LLC, for example, and then you'll need, typically with LLCs, I forget what they're called, like a registrar or something like that. I can't remember, but somebody represents the LLC, and that's where all the legal stuff goes to. And registered agent, that's right, I apologize for that. So you'll need a registered agent, and that they will have an address, and everything, the legal address of the company becomes their address. So that's typically how you would do it. Hassan asks, from Pakistan, very cool. My startup is wearable tech, facing challenges and growth. Okay, well, that's nice to know. It doesn't sound like there's a question there, so I'm going to move on from that. But thanks for telling us all of that. I wish you the best of luck. Mike asks, also, should a startup in its beginning stages be virtual or in person, especially if I don't have enough money for office space? Okay, well, before we got our funding, we were meeting at Starbucks, Pete's Coffees, you name it. We were meeting at places, me and my co-founders all the time. And then we met a lot at my house. My kitchen was our office for a while. So you'll find places to meet. Personally, again, to come back to the central theme of today, it seems like I am a big believer in people working together side by side. Virtual businesses are much more difficult to make work. It doesn't mean you can't make it work. It does mean it's more difficult to make it work. So I would strongly recommend that you work together side by side with you and your co-founders, even before you have money. Go find a place, even if it's your house, even if it's a coffee shop, doesn't matter. But the proximity, the camaraderie that you build will be important, even if it's just for a couple hours a day or something. That's what I would do. Okay, this is actually a really good question. Next question, also from Mike, is what if you are extremely confident that your startup will be big when released? Should we spend more on our MVP? Okay, well, everybody should feel extremely confident that their startup is going to be big. That's almost like a 1-0 kind of thing. If you don't believe that you're going to succeed, then don't do it. So that's like number one on my list here. So absolutely, positively, think big, about what you're trying to do. I think that's super smart. Should you spend more on it? No, I don't think so. You should spend whatever the amount is that you need to spend so that the MVP is going to be successful. I think that's a better discussion to have, quite frankly. So when we think about MVPs, and I think about the mistakes with MVPs, is people think that the idea of an MVP is to come out with something, this minimum thing, right? I'm going to come out with this really small thing that shows I've got something that works, but I've made it so small that there's no value in it to customers. and that customers can get everything I'm providing from my larger competitors. Do you know what happens when you do that? That's right, you're going to fail. There needs to be something unique and differentiated about your MVP. It doesn't mean that you have to have this full-fledged product that has all these bells and whistles to it. No, doesn't mean that at all. It does mean that we want to have something unique and different. That's the mission here. That's the goal. So we want to have that, whatever that takes and whatever the cost of that is. I hope that answers your question. Okay, if there are more questions for me, please put them in the chat box or the Q&A box on either site. Okay, on the Zoom site or on the site for, I'm sorry, for YouTube. Give me one more second here. Okay. Give me one more second. Excellent. All right, let's see what we got. Let me take a drink of water too. Okay, next question. How important is it to have a mentor? Well, I think it's only important to have a mentor if the mentor is really good. Now, the thing about mentoring, which is different than coaching, is there has to be some, and this is also true, by the way, for coaches too, I believe, is to mentor somebody, there has to be something in it for the mentor. It's not like people approach me all the time and say, I want you to be my mentor. And I'm like, I don't want to be your mentor. And the reason why is because there's no utility or no value in it for me. It's also the wrong way to approach somebody, is making it all about yourself. You have to make it so that there's a utility and value for the person on the other side, because people who are good mentors are very busy. They're also probably very successful already in their lives. So you have to think about, why is this person going to be interested in being my mentor? What's in it for them? So think about it that way, and think about why they're going to want to help you. What's exciting and interesting about you and your business that's going to make this interesting? And then also remembering that whatever you give them in equity probably isn't going to be enough financially for them to be what's called move the needle on their business. Most people who are mentors, not all, but most, are usually very financially successful already. So when you offer them whatever you offer them, bear in mind that that alone is probably not going to be enough for them to want to mentor you. There has to be something in it for them. Okay, let's move on to the next question. I hope that helps, by the way. All right, let's see what we got. Okay. A co-founder regrets building a MVP because they had too many users as soon as they released their app, and their app kept crashing. Okay, I don't understand the question. Sorry, I do not understand that question. It's almost like you weren't ready to have it go live. Okay, actually, I think I do understand it. So what you're saying is, hey, we went live before we were ready. And this points out a really interesting difference between giving somebody a prototype and having an MVP in the marketplace. When I think about MVPs, this is my definition, it's not anybody else's but mine. And I kind of think about what I view as an MVP. An MVP is a sellable product. It may not have all the bells and whistles of your final product, but it's sellable. And therefore, because it's sellable, you have to test it. And in your particular case, when you're talking about the app crashed, you didn't do a good job of testing it. So everything should be working, and the expectations of a customer should be the same as they would be for your final product. So that's the way I would look at this. So I hope that helps. What type of, okay, this is another interesting, really good question. What type of insurance do I need in the beginning stages? Okay, well, when we think about this, there's the with investors and without investors version of this answer. So I'm going to give the, I don't know, it's popping into my head, the with investors answer. And most investors, especially when you start dealing with venture capitalists, demand that you have what's called D&O insurance, which is director and officer insurance, which protects directors of the company and officers of the company from being sued personally in their roles. So you want insurance from that. If you're manufacturing something and you have an office, you're going to want to have insurance for the office against various things. Think about all the various things that you'll need insurance for, but those are the things that pop into my head. I'm probably not doing that great of an answer on this. Sorry about that. That's just what's popping in my head on that. But just think about all the various things that can break and possibly you'd be liable for, or you want to make sure that you're backed up on. But the D&O stuff is a real thing because typically it's what's called Keyman. There's also Keyman Life Insurance, which typically would be you and your technical co-founder would have, which is if you die or your technical co-founder dies or becomes incapacitated, the company gets some money for that, which makes sense because early stage startups are very dependent on one or two people. So this is a way to protect the startups. Those are the things that I think about. Okay, next question from Design Gazette. What options can we explore if we need money for our MVP and can't bootstrap? We're in Kenya and can't bootstrap from personal loans, friends, or family. Yeah, I hear you. And it's really tough. I answered a similar question this earlier. I know you're in Kenya. I know that money might be tight. And trying to find money is going to be difficult, but I would try and find money close to you in proximity first. That's going to be the easiest. It's hard to sell the story to somebody in the United States. Hey, I'm in Kenya, can you give me money? It's going to be much easier to sell that to somebody else in Kenya, and if not in Kenya, then somewhere else in Africa. It's going to be an easier way to do this. So the tool that I recommended is this tool called Crunchbase. It's crunchbase.com. They have a free trial that you can use, and you can find investors in any geographic area of the world. And then you can sort those investors by stage of investment, type of investment. It's a really great tool to use. And you can reach out to people, even if you don't know them. And if you craft an excellent cold email, and I have a video coming out on this, not this week, but next week on this subject, you can be successful in getting people to talk to you. All right. Let's see what we've got. Okay, my fulfillment partners, back to the fulfillment thing, has an average inventory turn of 2x with large inventory. They will significantly benefit from accretive revenue opportunity and high utility and value for their business. They can help build out sample and provide extended terms to help, but I still need working capital. How would you approach them as a strategic partner? Give them a benefit for investing. Sometimes you get people wanting to do this, by the way, where you can get them to pay you first. You can give them a discount for that. That's a way to do it. You can give them maybe something else as a benefit. Think benefits to them beyond getting the product. It's not a guarantee that it will work, but this does happen. And that's typically how you would approach it, is there's a benefit beyond the investment that they get. They get something more. They can get equity in your business, which is fine. Maybe they get a lower price. That's another way to do it. By the way, it's a very smart way to get started. Don't worry about trying to maximize profit, get customers. get volume going, then you can start maximizing profit. Thomas asks, have I ever angel invested? Yes, I have. Daniel asks, I recently received a term sheet from one of my potential investors. Congratulations. And I'm not sure if I should take it. Could you take a look at the last question on Zero to Pitch Group? There are more details on it. Okay, I guess I will. Okay, have I ever angel invested? Okay, a larger question. Have I ever angel invested? And if so, what are the pros and cons? Okay, the pros are that you can make a lot of money. The cons are that it's massively risky to do it. What have I learned from this? Number one is I only invest in things that I know, period. So I have expertise in certain areas. I will only invest in those areas. Number two, I only invest in, and I only will invest if I believe in the CEO. That is my theory of the case. And that's by the way, the theory of the case of many early stage investors is that if I do not believe in the CEO full stop, that the CEO is fantastic, then I will not invest no matter how great the idea might be, because then I believe that the company will fail. So that is my basic simplistic criterion for investing, is that. So I hope that answers your question. I do want to add one more thing to this because this does come to another point about finding investors. Let me give you an example. If you are a hardware company, you're building some sort of hardware device. Let's say you're building, I don't know, an electric car. And you approach software investors for helping you build your electric car, or biotech investors to help you build your electric car. The odds of those people investing is going to be close to zero. The reason is it's not in their area of expertise. Remember that not all investors are created equal. You want to find people that have expertise in what you do. That's going to be the best chance of success for you in this. I hope it helps. Next question. Hello, I am pre-revenue and working on my look like work prototype. Okay, not sure what that means. I have raised some money, but now have a potential investor asking what will be their return on their investment and asking to see my business plan. I have a pitch deck. Is that enough, or should I share my business plan? Okay, it sounds like you have a very inexperienced investor on your hands. Typically, experienced investors do not ask what the potential return on their business is. They know what they believe the potential return is, and they only invest if they believe your company can exceed their hurdle rate on this. So for example, typically early stage investors, if they are going to be equity-based investors, will invest if they believe they can make probably a 30x return on their investment. So that should be kind of their criteria, and that would be typically in 7 to 10 years. That's the typical way people look at things. So if they're asking for, what do you think the return is? That's kind of a flag to me that you don't have somebody who is very experienced that you're working with. So beware. I would show them the pitch deck, because your pitch deck is a business plan in today's world. Business plan is worthless. But if you want to show them that, they may be somebody who sounds like they don't invest very often, or not very experienced in investing. So you can try, but I would be very concerned, because this person doesn't sound like they know what they're doing. Sandeep asks, how do you find a good law firm to represent my startup and can take equity since I don't have any funding? That's going to be a tough one. Most startup law firms are not going to take equity. At least in my experience, they won't. They'll work for a retainer. There are cheaper solutions out there that you can probably find to help you, But if you're looking for a good law firm, you have to think about it from their position. Why are they going to work with you, for nothing? It's the same thing as a venture capitalist. The biggest thing for a law firm is their billable hours. So if they can't make money, they're not likely to work with you. So sorry to burst your bubble on that one, but that's just the truth. So find a way to spend some money. Find a way, because the stuff you need at the beginning, it's not a huge amount of stuff. At the beginning, when I was getting started and we had a law firm, we just used them sparingly, to incorporate the company, to get the business set up properly, to make sure all the equity agreements were fine. And then beyond that, until we had investment, there was not much for them to do. That doesn't cost a huge amount of money to do it. It's worth it. Okay, next question. This is a great question. How much equity percentage should I give up to my angel investor? And how much should I save for future rounds? Okay. Deep sigh here. If we have one or two investors, they're a little bit different rules than if we have 7, 8, 9, 10 investors. So I'm not sure which one we're falling into here in this particular question. But if we have a small number of investors, one or two, then I would not set the percentage. And you're thinking, my God, that's nuts. No, it's not. Because the market's going to determine the valuation. Who's the market? The market is investors. So let them lead first. Let them tell you what they want for the investment. There's some basic rules depending upon how much you're going to give up, and it should fall within those basic rules. That's what I would do if we're talking a small number of investors, one or two, then let them determine the valuation. You can always negotiate. Doesn't mean you have to agree to it, but it's always better in any negotiation to let the other side go first. So that's what I would do. Okay, and then if it's a larger number of percentage of investors, then absolutely give them a percentage. And again, it's going to be based on how much you're giving up. So if we're giving up maybe like, I don't know, let's say raising like $100,000 or something like that, then maybe you're going to give up around 10% of the company, something like that. So, I have a video on this as well. As you can tell, I have lots of videos. So there's a video on this one. You can find it on the YouTube site and watch it, and it'll go through this in detail. Okay, and yet another good question. You're asking a lot of good questions, by the way, Danielle. Does it make sense to be financed with convertible notes? If we're just starting out, yeah, do a safe note. But there are pros and cons to safe notes. If we're dealing with experienced investors, experienced angel investors, they should understand what a safe note is. If we're dealing with friends and family, our rich uncle, somebody like that, don't do a safe note because they're not going to understand it. They will not, full stop, and it's just going to confuse the issue and make it harder. So that's my answer to that. And you can decide what you want to do. I mean, if you know what you think the valuation should be, you can always just set it, with a couple investors, that's fine. And it should be around, as I said, around this 10%-ish number, somewhere around there should work, for the first round of funding. It just depends upon how much money we're raising as well. That will also determine what these are. They're very mechanical at the beginning. But if you want to use a safe note, lots of people I've worked with who've done safe notes at the beginning of their companies, that's fine too. It just essentially says we're going to push the valuation on to the next round of funding, and then we're going to cap it. In other words, we're going to give people a discount to that. If you invest now, you get maybe a 25-30% discount to the next round. And then we're going to do what's called cap that valuation, which means that we're going to say, here's the highest the valuation for the next round can go. So maybe it goes even higher than that number. They're still at this. So let's say we say that the next round can only be valuation of $5 million and the company gets valued at 10. Well, their valuation is going to be capped at that $5 million number, and they'll get a discount to that, not a discount to the 10. So that's essentially how a safe note works. Okay, next question. One more question. What are your thoughts on crowdfunding a SaaS startup as opposed to going through the VC and angel investor route? Well, I've never done crowdfunding, so it's hard for me to say whether it will work or not. Depending upon what your business is, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I honestly don't know. The more traditional route would be to do angel investing and VCs when you're ready. Again, typically, if we're talking SaaS business, we're talking software. If we're talking software, that means you're going to have traction of some sort to get people interested and excited in what you're doing. Traction means revenue. You're going to need revenue to make that go. All right, any other questions? Questions for me, please. If you have questions, put them in the chat box, put them in the Q&A box if you're on Zoom, or the chat box. Either one will work for me, and that will be fantastic. Okay, let's see what we got. Is this Zoom recorded? Yes, it is. It is being recorded. Okay, and then Mike asks, I will be charging for my MVP on initial release. Good. You should charge for MVP because it's a product. Should I seek out investors if I become profitable in the first year? And also, how do I navigate investors who want to invest? Okay, well, that's a very broad question. Okay, the question on should you seek out investors if you're going to be profitable in the first year? Why do you need them? That would be my question to you. If you're already profitable and you have money, the reason you want investors is typically because you need their money for some reason or another. So that's the question that you have to answer is, do you need their money? Yes or no? So if we need their money, then great, then go find investors. But again, there needs to be a certain amount of revenue. And it's an interesting question because maybe if you're bootstrapping, then you almost by definition have to become profitable because you run out of money. But if you're trying to raise money and you're already profitable and you're trying to grow faster, which means maybe we need to hire people and we're going to go into the red because we're going to lose money to grow faster, that would be why you would find investors. And that would be the reason why you would do it, would be for that reason. So make sure you understand why you're doing things. Do things for logical reasons, not illogical reasons. And again, remember, it has to be exciting to investors. Just because you want to raise money doesn't mean you will raise money. There's no guarantee of that. None. So there has to be a reason. There has to be something that's going to make me as an investor excited. And what's that reason? I believe I can make a lot of money working with you. If I don't believe I can make money, it's not going to be exciting to me. So you have to meet their criterion, for this to be exciting. Okay. Let's see if we've got any other questions here. Okay, a great question, because this is a question which is somewhat of a trick question. I have a video on this as well about trick questions that you get asked. What do you say to an investor when they say that your market is too competitive? Well, this is true of many markets, right? That they're too competitive, or that you have some large competitor. What are you going to do because name your big company that's coming after you? What do you do? Say, look, we're going to kick their asses. But the answer is that you have to have something unique and differentiated. So let me give you an example of this. One of the most, I won't say the name of the company, but the most successful company that I'm working with. It's this company that has a lot of direct competitors. There were 50 companies financed, over 50 companies financed in their space by venture capitalists in their space. This was a few years ago when they got started. Actually, it's been almost 7 years now since they got started. Company's worth now well over $1 billion, is clearly going to be successful, and is clearly going to be one of the few winners in the space. Most of those 50 companies are dead now. And most of the investors got wiped out in the process. Why did these guys win, and why did they get investment despite the fact that there were all these other companies they were competing with? Because they were doing something unique and different. So when somebody says to you, it's somewhat of a trick question. Well, gosh, your market's too competitive. And so, yeah, you can say, yeah, there are lots of competitors. Let me show you how we stack up versus them. So what you would show them is your competitive analysis. You'd show them your competitive analysis, and you show how you're going to compete against these guys. What's unique and different about you? That's the answer to this. And you would tell this guy, look, these guys are all doing this. We're doing something that's significantly better. We're 10x better than them. We're in whatever area you are. And hopefully that's true, because if you're just me tooing it, then the investor's just going to move on. There has to be something unique and different about you. Next question. Okay, how do you separate your own finances with the company finances? Okay, this is a really good question. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to answer it in enough detail here, but this is really important. And can you seek investment just to support your living so you can focus on the startup? Okay, let's start with the first question. How do you separate your own finances? Well, one way, and this is something I recommend, is be disciplined in your approach. The company should have its own bank account. They should have totally different finances than you. It should be set up as a separate entity from you, so that it is here in the United States, if we're trying to get funding, we'd set it up as a C Corp, or maybe an LLC, something that's different, which separates you from them. And it should be totally different financially. You should pay yourself a salary, even if that salary is very, very, very tiny. That's a discipline you should have. I have seen people get in trouble, and I've worked with a couple people who I stopped working with instantly when they did this, when they started mixing the finances together, because when you do that, it makes things really difficult from an investor standpoint. You don't know what's real and what isn't, and it can look like you're embezzling funds. And remember, if you have investors besides yourself in your company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to them to do the right thing. So all that goes out the window, if we're mixing money together. So can you seek investment just to support your living so you can focus on the startup? The answer is maybe, because yeah, you need investors, because yes, you want to support yourself and everything else. But again, there has to be something in it for them. If they can't meet their rates of return, if they're not excited by what you're doing, they're not going to invest. So that's the answer. Okay. See what we got. We got a few more minutes left here. If you have questions for me, put them in the chat box, Q&A box. That would be great. Okay, I want to become, Mike says, I want to become a $1 billion plus company. Also, I mean that if I have a lot of traction and investors come to me instead of the other way around. Well, that's fantastic if they come to you. And that does happen, by the way. As you get bigger and bigger, people seek you out and they find you. And that's great. That's what you want to have happen. That's what we had happen to us, is that as we kept becoming more and more successful, we had more and more people find us, because it's hard to find good companies. That's the flip side of this, is even though I told you the 100 to 1 number before, most companies are not that good. So if you're doing great, fantastic. Then you have the ability to set terms that are more favorable to yourself. That's great. Congratulations. Where can we listen to this? Well, you can listen to this on YouTube. This will be on my YouTube site. So you can listen to this whole thing and my previous AMAs as well. Okay, then somebody says, thank you so much for doing this. You're quite welcome. Glad you're enjoying this. Let's see if we've got any other questions. Okay, somebody asked, what would it take to get me on board as a mentor? Very unlikely, I would tell you. Just first of all, I'm incredibly busy right now, so probably not going to happen. Not to burst your bubble, but it would have to be something where, um, again, it has to be something in it for me. There has to be some utility and value to me. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about this. It's just the way that people think about these things. There has to be something. It can't just be because you're asking. There has to be some utility and value to me. I have to see that, number one, I can help you. Number two, I believe in you. I have a unique way of doing mentoring with people, when I do it. So you'd have to meet all those criterion. So if you're interested, you can always go to my website and go to the coaching page of my website and fill out the form there. And we can see whether or not it makes sense or not. That's what I would tell you. Okay, any other questions? Questions can be in the chat box, the Q&A box, or on both Zoom or YouTube. Okay. All right, I'm going to give it a little bit more time. I'm going to drink some water here because I'm super thirsty. All right, let's see if we have any more questions. Okay. I would say one more thing while we're waiting. If you want to move your startup faster, a couple options for you. Number one, you can go to my site on School and join the community there called Zero to Pitch. It is free, and it's free for life. If you want to go even faster, there's a link on that community to my paid community called Zero to Pitch Gold. And on Zero to Pitch Gold, instead of having these AMA sessions, I have daily office hours. And in the daily office hours, you have the ability to talk to me, not just ask me questions through a chat box. So you can go a lot faster. There are courses on there which can move you along quicker. And the quality of the CEOs that are involved in that is much higher quality than on the other side, I would say. The other site's great. This site is even better because it's just, people are paying for it. And when you pay for something, usually you're going to want to get more out of it. So if you're interested, one way to get started is join the group on the school site, see if you like that. And then if you like that, you want to go even faster, then join the group on the paid group called Zero to Pitch Gold. Okay, doesn't look like we have any more questions. Let me see if I have any. I got one more question right at the end. Always happens. Where can I find top talent for co-founders for my startup? You've got to network like crazy. The first thing I would do is I would look at all the people that I know and start asking them, are you interested? If they're not interested, say, do you know anybody that's interested? You'll find a lot of people doing this. Next step would be LinkedIn. I would start searching for various things that I'm interested in. If I'm looking for a VP of engineering for my software company, I'd start looking for that, on there, and then start reaching out to those people and seeing if you can get meetings with those people, and you've got to sell them on your business. This is what we have to do. Those are the basic routes to make this go. This is kind of like step one. If you think about this, if the next thing was, well, I can't get anybody excited, well, that tells you you've got a problem. Because if you can't sell people on joining your business, how are you going to build your business? So I hope that helps. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, we're just about out of time. Okay. Give it another minute or so. Again, if you're interested, go to my site on School. There's a link on the YouTube site for that. It is free. It's a free community that you can have access to for life. Okay. I don't know how to use LinkedIn. No, I can't help you do that. You got to do that on your own. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but go to LinkedIn, sign up for an account, and you should be able to search. There is a paid version of LinkedIn, by the way, which I would highly recommend that you do. It might be out of touch for you financially, but it's highly worth it to do this because it gives you this ability to send people what are called in-mails, which is this ability to message anybody on the site and say, hey, I'm Brett. I'm building this company. This is X, Y, and Z. Love to talk to you about joining us. Should be able to find meetings doing that. Okay, this is going to be my last question, is going to be Stephen's question here. Our customers are asking us to scale quickly. They are big B2B businesses in energy. Do you recommend corporate VC or, can't see what that last thing is, or financials to achieve this quickly? We are post-revenue. Well, congratulations. Sounds really exciting. It's unclear to me what you should do, to be honest, based on what you're writing me here. What type, I think what you're saying is what type of investors should I look for? It's really, well, who's going to be interested in investing in your company? And if your customers are asking you to scale quickly, that's interesting. You can ask them to invest, which is maybe what you're asking, which is a great way to go. And you can have them as your partners and they can invest. They can get something for investing. Maybe they can get a discount on their product by giving you money up front. That's a way to do it. And then maybe you don't even have to give up equity. There's many different ways to do this, which could be interesting, but that would probably be a way that I would think of. And then if the business is looking really exciting, then why not just go get traditional investment? You could do this without knowing. I don't know enough about your situation to know, so I'm giving you generalities here, because it seems to me that you could get potentially a venture investment, or depending upon where you are, maybe an angel investment. I don't know which way that would go, but you could get some sort of equity investment, maybe a loan tied to accounts receivable, which is a way to do it. There are many different things that you could do here without knowing a detailed example of the particulars here. Can't really be able to help you more than that, but it sounds like you've got a nice, what I would call high-class problem on your hands. So congratulations. Sounds like you'll be able to find more money. Very good. Especially if they're asking you to scale faster. It's like, great, we want to scale faster. Help us out. Give us more. Got it, that they're oil and gas customers. Perfect. So go back to them. If they're big oil and gas companies, they got plenty of money. Ask them to help you and make it worth their while and find a deal that works for them and works for you. Okay, with that, that's going to be it for today. I thank everybody for their questions. I'm going to answer one more question because it's on my Zoom feed, and I'm going to do this for the people that are already part of the Zero to Pitch group. How do investors determine when startup is dead or still needs time to gain traction? That's the billion-dollar question. It varies from company to company. It's when they stop believing is really the answer. There's no, I can't give you 5 criteria. Every investor is different. It's when they stop believing. That's when they stop investing. All right, with that, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. We'll be back again next week. Take care. Bye.